Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, we've got Stevie Buckets.
What's up, everyone?
Hey, there you go, Steve.
Glad to be here.
That was better.
Thank you.
You have a little bit more enthusiasm.
I'm enthused.
Are you?
Yeah. And excited.
Could have fooled me.
Dare I say.
Yeah.
Our coffee machine's broken, in fairness.
Downstairs?
Yes.
Why?
I don't know.
Just broke?
Something like that. But I think Nick ordered a part. It's fine, everyone. The coffee will be fine.
It needs descaled.
That's it.
Is what it is, Steve. Yeah. Descaled.
See.
Why don't you introduce our guest?
This is my boy Dom.
Hello, everybody.
He's in recovery. He works a great program. Home group member, sponsorship family member, works in treatment. Just an all-around gentleman.
And a scholar.
And a scholar.
Maybe.
What an introduction.
Some would say that, you know.
First things first, thank you for tuning in on the podcast app, and thank you for watching on YouTube. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, Tom at realrecoverytalk.com and Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message, right, Buckets?
That's correct.
All right, Dom. So I know you're probably wondering what this is all about, but it's just organic conversation. And you were here, you were visiting, and we're like, yeah, what the heck? Let's have you on the podcast. So
Okay.
There's no real agendas behind it, but I want you to keep in mind that a lot of the listeners are families and loved ones. We get listeners, addicts and alcoholics that are in active addiction, people that are in recovery, but a lot of families and loved ones. So, as you're speaking, just, those are the primary people, not that we're speaking to, but, the vast majority of listeners. Anyways, let's just get right into it. And I know Steve and you have a much stronger relationship. We don't really know each other hardly at all. So Steve, you're going to probably interject into this quite a bit. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, what got you here, where you're from, how old you are, and stuff like that. And we'll just go from there.
Okay. Well, my name's Dom. Grew up in Virginia.
Pull the mic like a little closer to you.
Is that
there
better?
You go, yeah.
All right. So my name's Dom. Grew up in Virginia. I'm 28. And what did you mean by what brought me here? Like what brought me here? Or what brought me here?
Just, go into a little bit of your using history and then, ultimately coming to Florida for treatment and stuff like that.
Okay. Where I grew up, it was this real rural country kind of town where there's absolutely nothing to do ever. And besides that, I think, one of the major keys to why I what led into my addiction was the learning behavior growing up. My sister, she's an addict. My dad was a gambling addict, and my mom's an alcoholic. So growing up, really, it was like watching everybody, in my family deal with their problems on a day-to-day basis was by using, one substance or using in one form or another. So I grew up and kind of, that's how I learned how to deal with my own problems, by not dealing with them, So, that happened, obviously, it started out with the less dangerous stuff. And, it was funny because everybody would always say hey, marijuana is a gateway drug. It's a gateway drug. And, I never believed them. I thought that I had this courage or this control, over my using, and that didn't end up being the case. So, I ended up, I was probably using for a solid between 7 to 10 years, and I went to treatment, great program in the lovely state of Michigan, and that ties into my story as well. And afterwards, you know, they were like, okay, you know, like you can go home. And there was just, I don't know if it was like the other people's stories that I heard while I was in treatment about people going home and like, you know, not doing what they need to do, and they end up back there, you know, the next month or what have you. But there was one of our security guards. He had been through the program like 6 times before he got it down pat, and you know, he had mentioned one day, he was like, you know, that when people, you know, continue their recovery is when they're successful, and people who go home and they don't, like, they're not. And something about the way that he carried himself, you know, the guy worked the program, obviously, you know, he never like was open about it and told anybody, but like now seeing people on a daily basis work a program, like that's what that was. You know what I mean? That attraction, not the promotion. And so I took his advice, you know, and I decided, there was a few other key components to why I continued treatment, rehab romance, of course.
Sure.
Some people can relate. But it was a blessing, right? So that's how I ended up down here in Florida, because I knew that if I had went home, I would have picked up and used eventually. And as a matter of fact, I did. When I went home before I came down here, I did. I picked up and I used. And that gave me the more, you know, that was even, you know, that it sealed the deal. You know, that home at that current point was not a good place for me. You know, and I had to come to terms with that. And so I just, you know, I came down here. I didn't know a single soul except for, you know, the girl that I was ultimately blindly chasing down here. And, you know, I just got, you know, I just kind of gravitated or grabbed on to whoever I could that seemed like they were heading in the right direction or that were just doing the right thing. Because ultimately that's, you know, that's what I wanted. And, you know, I got introduced to this great group of guys when I came down here, and, you know, immediately, you know, got a sponsor. Was going to meetings because that was a requirement anyway. But then once I got that freedom, I was able to find, like, you know, my meetings, the meetings where I found recovery. And what were the other questions?
Well, I mean, there was a lot there, so I want to take a second and dive into that a little bit. You said that, well, let me ask you how many times were you in treatment total?
I was in detox once. Essentially one time. I had transferred one time, but then that was it.
Yeah, and that's amazing. It really is. I mean, if you look, and you know this, you know, considering you work in the field now, we run into a lot of people that, you know, have made really substance abuse treatment somewhat of a career.
Oh, yeah.
And it's unfortunate. So, I mean, you're pretty much a one and done guy in this case. And you said that there was one individual in particular that he said something that resonated with you. I want you to repeat what he said, and I want to dive into that a little bit because I think it's a huge message. It's oftentimes missed.
Yeah. Now, again, this was like almost 4 years ago, so, you know, I don't know it verbatim, but essentially he was like, hey, look, like, if the people who go to aftercare have a better chance of like obtaining long-term recovery than if you don't, you know?
Steve, what do you got on that?
I've seen the same things in my recovery and working in treatment. Like, I hate to say it, and sometimes we're wrong, but like for me, like I could almost predict how successful they're going to be between what they're doing, because our actions will dictate our futures a lot of times, most of the time, dare I say. But for me, like, I've been in treatment twice, and for me, it was like taking suggestions of, I mean, I'm from South Florida. I'm like from here. I went to treatment here. My meetings were down here. Like, I built my foundation here. You know, I was already here. But like, so it wasn't a matter of going home, but it was a matter of not going to old places and doing new things. And a lot of that was honesty with my sponsor and being around my sponsor. I was like pretty much stuck to my sponsor like a hip at the hip. You know what I'm saying? Like he was like Obi-Wan.
Tied to the
hip. Yeah, excuse me. But he was like, this is why, you know what I mean? The whole podcast. Anyways. But, no, he was like my Obi-Wan and I was like Luke Skywalker almost, you know, in terms of recovery. Like I was an apprentice at this shit and he was, excuse my language, but he was, the old wise, veteran.
Well, you know, I oftentimes, you know, parents ask, one of the not number one questions, but I get asked this a lot is, what's your success rate? And I never give them an answer because it's not something that you can really quantify. We don't follow people around, you know, it's just impossible to answer that. And another thing is, you know, I had this conversation a few nights ago with a lady whose son is struggling. And she said, well, what's the point in me even trying to force him to go into treatment because he doesn't want to get clean? And Dom, I'd like to know your opinion on this. My opinion, and I shared this with her. I said, I'll just say ma'am because I don't want to say her name because she listens. I said, ma'am, if I have 10 people that walk in this door, 8 of which don't want to be here, 2 of them are going to be the 100%, you know, hands up in the air, surrender. I'm going to do whatever you ask me to do. And they're going to do it with a smile on their face, you know, but that's the vast majority of people don't want to go through this process. And the vast majority don't wake up in the morning thinking, okay, today's the day I'm going to enter into detox. Generally speaking, people have to get forced into this in some capacity. And the reason that I say that is because, and Dom, this is where I want to know your thoughts on this. When you were in treatment, we never know when we're going to hear something like that gentleman shared that stuck with you, you know, and that's what I share with parents and loved ones all the time. They may not want to be here. And we've seen it here, Steve, prime examples of people that have come into our program in the first 60 days. We're looking at them like, what the hell are you even doing here? Mm-hmm. But then on day 61, something is said, they meet somebody that it clicks and and now they understand, oh, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And none of us here, the 3 of us sitting here, none of us have a crystal ball, nor can we predict the future.
Sure.
You know, so Don, what do you got on that?
I think, you know, with all the cliche sayings that they have in recovery, right? It's like, you know, don't give up before the miracle. You know, don't give up 5 minutes before the miracle.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, it's like, when's the seed going to be planted? Will it be planted? You know, we don't know. Like you said, we don't have a crystal ball. And it's like, you know, why should the mom, you know, continue if her, you know, if the loved one doesn't want to get help? It's like, I don't think the seed gets planted anywhere else except for environments like this. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, definitely seed's not going to get planted on the corner. You know what I mean? Yeah. On the block or wherever. It's not, you know? And that's just one of those things. It's like, you really never do know, you know?
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that because I brought that up to her. I said, well, okay, let's say you do nothing. What happens? She's like, well, oh yeah, good point. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like nothing changes. They're going to, so it's not an excuse to just kind of sit back and let things play out. And, you know, we don't, addicts today, and I'm speaking to straight up drug addicts, junkies, they don't have that luxury. Mm-hmm. I'm a drinker. You know, I never got into opiates or anything like that. So, you know, if you want to let things ride out with me for a little bit, you could probably get away with it unless I'm like knocking on death's door, liver's failing, mm-hmm. you know, yellow eyes, stuff like that.
Got jaundice.
Yeah. But for the most drug addicts, though, and IV users, you just don't know.
Yeah.
Like tomorrow you could think you're getting a bag of dope and you're dead. And or you think you're doing a Xanax.
Yeah.
And you're dead.
Scary.
Yeah.
It's not, there's a line in the big book that talks about if you don't think that you're a true alcoholic, then go to the nearest bar room and try some controlled drinking. And I think in and of itself, that message is fair to say to an alcoholic, but that message is not fair to say anymore to people that are using drugs.
Yeah, I mean, I say all the time, it's a new era. A lot of people haven't got the memo on that yet.
Yeah.
But they still think they can do the whole, like, I'll just, do treatment for the next year and, and back and forth, relapse, come back, come back. But it's not like that. We've seen it time and time again. Because now it's not just like, all right, fentanyl obviously is the thing that's killing people, but it's in everything,
Yeah, absolutely everything.
And that's in terms of, and I want to go back real quick to like when I said predicting, in terms of the footwork, my theory is if you don't do it here, you're not going to do it when you go home. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like in terms of the going home aspect, it requires doing the stuff here.
Dom, do you think that, do you believe that to be true?
I do. Because, if I had tried to do, if I tried to accomplish what I've accomplished down here in recovery through my, my stint in treatment, back home on my own, you know what I mean? Like none of the blessings that I have today would even be possible. And like, I have absolutely like nothing to my name, but like stuff on the inside, you know what I mean? And like, that's what I've gained here.
That's what a lot of people gain at first. Yeah. Is like finally like peace.
Yeah.
And can sit with themselves and not be going crazy. Because we're chaos junkies aside from all of it too.
Oh, for sure.
Love the chaos and love everything that comes with substance abuse and addiction and stuff like that. So, Dom, so you came down in about 4 years ago,
yep.
And you and Steve are part of the same sponsorship family, and you guys are active members of NA.
Yeah.
So, did you? And this is just kind of out of curiosity for myself. Did you make a switch to NA, or did you just go straight into NA?
So, no, I made the conscious decision to do NA. Now, when I was like 15 or 16 and I was trying to prove to my girlfriend that I could stop smoking weed, and my sister went to these AA meetings at the local church. I went and read the big book and did all the sayings, and I replaced the word for the word, you know what I mean? Because when I was 15, 16, I didn't know any better, and everybody said it was okay, so it was okay. You know what I mean? And then there was this, I remember I didn't know, I was 15, 16. First time in my meeting, everybody's sharing, so I thought that I had to tell everybody my life story. So here I am. It took up the whole entire meeting telling everybody my life story from, the moment I could remember. And this old guy sat there and he raised his hands and he goes, I remember when I first came into a meeting, I sat down and I shut up and I listened. And it just did not resonate well with me, because everybody else was like super loving and like happy that this young guy's in a meeting, you know what I mean? Because nobody young really, recovery wasn't even really like known about, you know what I mean? For like people my age or even people a little bit older, like these were a bunch of old timers, you know what I mean? Like people that knew. But when I was in treatment, they took us to this place, and it was basically like, at this one time they had an NA meeting and an AA meeting at the same time. And, I saw narcotic. That's what I saw. I didn't see Narcotics Anonymous. I saw narcotics, light bulb. That's what I was attracted to. So I gave it a shot. And that's what made me like feel at home. I did dip over to that other meeting, while I was in treatment, because, everybody that I knew was going over there. And it was a point to like maybe one or two people from the treatment center that I was with would go to the NA meetings, but everybody else would go over there, and I just felt like those were my people.
I get that.
Yeah. Steve, what was your experience with that?
Well, my experience with the fellowships, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, when I went, I never liked alcohol, first of all, and I guess I totally understand. There's people who hate alcohol, do very successful in AA, and how they replace the words and everything, and they're fine. For me though, it was really hard to see that and even know I could do that. And I remember, I just never liked alcohol. I probably drank a total of 5 times. Granted,
really?
Yeah, in my whole life. Granted, each time I was blacked out, like on rum, whatever it was, vodka, whatever, couldn't stop. You know what I mean? But once, drink in my high school years, drinking, once I found marijuana, that was it. And then, all the other type of stuff, the heavier and heavier stuff. But so it was a quick segue. But I never really never sat around drinking. I would just drink, and when I drank, I got drunk. So it was not really something that I felt like there was no obsession there. It was not something I thought about. I thought about drugs all day, every day. So when I went into detox, they gave me 2 books. They gave me the AA book and they gave me the NA book. AA, I feel like most people have heard of AA just because it's in movies or it's more just more famous. It's a famous fellowship. It's the first 12-step fellowship.
Yeah.
So I opened that one up first, and I think I read 2 sentences, and as the words were kind of old timey and the vocabulary.
It's like the King James version.
Exactly, the King James version. Now, side note, real quick though. Side note, I have learned, especially working here and working with doing groups with you and Eric and Ben and everything. You just guys are. I've seen the appeal to it and the beauty to it. In fact, but when I opened up the NA book, I felt acknowledgement for the first time because I thought I was uniquely effed up.
Right.
Uniquely messed up. Of course, I knew a million other addicts, but I thought I was worst of the worst because I had my own personal self-hatred and knowing all the stuff I did to feed my addiction, to get my drugs. So I knew all that stuff. So I already was I'm unfixable. I'm just broken person, So I opened that book up. I felt there was a first glimpse of hope. And then the H&I meetings come in. Both AA and H&Is were awesome. That's where I met my sponsor. That's where I would go to my meetings afterwards. That's where I was the first. I didn't stay clean that go around, but that was my first glimpse of a solution. Was there. I felt, my people, people having fun in recovery. And I remember it's changed a lot, but going to I'd go to an AA meeting if there was no NA meeting at the time. I needed a meeting, right? At that time, now, thank God, I'm sure I know it still happens, but then it was much more prevalent. I'm talking about around 2007, 2008, where if you mentioned drugs in an AA meeting, they told you to shut the hell up,
Which I think is so asinine.
Yeah.
Personally, I think that doesn't make any sense to me. Because we're all there for the same reason.
For sure. So that was a turnoff, but yeah, so that's definitely what attracted me to NA. And then just the acknowledgement, I'm a drug addict.
So if you have and this question is for both of you, if you have somebody that comes to you, just, I don't know, maybe it's a mutual friend or something, and they're talking about getting sober, and they ask you, what are the differences between NA and AA? Mm-hmm. I genuinely don't know, because I don't know really anything about NA. But to me, I would answer it's pretty much the same thing in a way. Just one is more about drugs and narcotics, and the other one is more about alcohol. But pick whichever one you want. That's my version. Now, and I'm very open about the fact that like I got sober through AA.
Right.
I work a 12-step program, you know, and if you're not watching on YouTube, I used air quotes because I mean, I went through the 12 steps and, you know, I help people get sober. So I'm constantly living in the 12 step, I suppose. Yeah. And I practice principles, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know the big book like the back of my hand. Like you can't even put me in the same category as Ben and Eric. You know, I appreciate you trying to, but it's not, we're not in the same leagues. Like those men are far and above in terms of knowledge around AA. And I admire that, you know, but for me, it's not like, you know, I guess I don't really care that much.
For the record, I can't quote debate. That's our version of the big books to basic text. I cannot quote. I'm kind of shot out anyways in some ways. Like I can't quote the basic text. Like,
but how do you answer that? How do you answer?
I'll tell you what I do, if I may. Like, I'll just say I just keep it real simple and keep my biases aside. I say try both, whatever you're comfortable with. Sometimes it's about the meeting, it's like how we enjoy the same home group. Sometimes it's about the people. You know what I mean? Because there's fire NA meetings, there's fire AA meetings, and I said NA, yeah, fire NA meetings and AA meetings, and there's also not great AA meetings and not great NA meetings with recovery. So I'd point them to the meeting. I'd point them to people I know who are working a good program, and let them decide. It's a very personal decision.
Yeah.
So,
Dom, what would you say?
I always kind of tell everybody, kind of like Steve said, to like, you know, feel it out for yourself. You know what I mean? Because I've met people who have, you know, started out in NA and then they end up in AA. I've also had people start in AA and end up in NA. So it's kind of like, you know, wherever you fill your cup at, you know what I mean? And as far as like the differences, I can see like how you said, you know what I mean? Like we're all here. We all have the same main objective. You know what I mean? Don't pick up. You know what I mean? Whether it's a drug, whether it's an alcohol. But the way it was kind of explained to me and, you know, like my sponsor, which is one of the reasons why I picked him, he's, he would have been one of those old guys that made me feel some type of way in that AA meeting when I was 15. You know what I mean? Like he eats, sleeps, lives, breathes Narcotics Anonymous. And it's NA is an all-inclusive, you know, fellowship, everything. Like it includes not even drugs and alcohol. You know what I mean? And we see alcohol as a drug because it is. We also do see like, you know, these, you know, whether it's sex, love, you know, gambling, like you name it, something that could make our lives unmanageable, you know, and we're addicted to it. Like that's part of the disease.
See, I didn't know that.
yeah, no, that's well said. That is true.
So
very true.
Narcotics Anonymous it sounds like is more open to having everybody.
Very much so, and it's not, and it's. I would say that's very open, and you can kind of be more open with that. And again, that varies between meetings. But I knew a girl, like an old home group I had like 10 years ago. She was celebrating some amount of time. She was going to pick up a medallion, so it must have been some years from cutting. You know, and I'm sure she had therapists too, and that as well. But a big part of her solution was NA, and it was widely known she never did drugs or never drank, but her addiction was self-harm, and she was picking up medallion, and there was no judgment. And I'm not saying there would be in AA. I'm just saying that in that particular Narcotics Anonymous meeting, there was no judgment. That's, of course, she's an addict, just like we're addicts, just like we're all addicts, you know. And to me, like I've seen it manifest in different forms in my life, so I really appreciate that. Not just drugs, but other stuff. You know what I mean?
It's interesting as we're talking through this because I mean that's a check mark in the Narcotics Anonymous, you know,
side of the score sheet.
Yeah, you know that's a win for NA, and I think I would argue that between both fellowships, you are going to have far more AA meetings be more critical of that girl that cuts being in an AA meeting than you would NA meeting, You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
AA meetings are going to be a lot more critical because, you know, the only requirement for membership in AA is the desire to stop drinking.
Yeah.
And it says not, it doesn't say anything about anything else. It just says drinking. Does NA have a line like that?
Yep. It says it, not verbatim, but basically it says the only requirement for membership is the desire to stop using.
Yeah.
Doesn't say drugs.
That's interesting.
Doesn't say alcohol and drugs. It just says using.
It just says using.
Whatever.
Using whatever.
Using
Whatever
a person.
Using a person. You know what I mean?
Using a freaking slot machine.
Manipulation.
Whatever.
You know, whatever fills in the blank there. You know, what it pertains to.
Steve, you know, if your job was to sell Narcotics Anonymous and you were commission based, you'd be broke.
Tom, thank you, bro.
But
This is why
you have a good product to sell.
yes.
I didn't know this.
I feel,
never...
in fairness to me, I tried attraction, not promotion.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm just joking.
I know you are.
But that's interesting.
I'm surprised you didn't know that.
Well, you know, it goes back to what I said earlier. I'm not, you know, I don't eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff.
Fair enough.
And some would argue because, I mean, my God, this is what I do on a day-to-day basis. But fortunately for me, I'm in a position now where I can just kind of sit in front of a computer all day. The most exposure to people I get is like with this right here, you know, which I'm fine with. You know, I go down and poke my head in the group room every now and again and say hey. And
you run group Tuesday.
I do run group on Tuesdays, which is fun. I like that. But that's cool. I never knew that about NA. All right, so I want to, and we don't have much time left, but I want to talk about something because I think this is important. You guys are going on a retreat in what? When are you leaving?
I'm leaving. I don't know. Like, there's an option to leave early. I'm doing the early one. Like, we're getting there a day ahead of a lot of the people, the people who are not in the solution. No, I'm kidding. But like, we're getting there on a Thursday night, or Thursday late afternoon, to Sunday. It officially starts Friday. So I'm leaving from the 28th through the weekend.
Okay, so explain what this is. Dom, you can start. Because, again, I think this support. A lot of times when people enter into these 12-step programs, they're like, oh, I'm entering into some sort of cult. This sucks. You know, but that's the furthest thing from the truth. So,
yes,
what are you guys going to be doing?
So, this specifically, and like, you know, I don't want to sit here and sell this like this is how it is everywhere with every sponsorship family, right? I don't know, because I've only had one, and I've never found a reason to leave. So the Michigan retreat is one of two yearly retreats, annual retreats that our sponsorship family holds. Essentially, everybody who can, you know, goes to this church community. It's like a whole community that like the church members live in, and then they rent out their like houses for people who want to do like retreats and whatnot. And it's basically a 2.5 day, sometimes 1.5, depending, you know, if you're like Steve and you get to go there a day early, you know.
Doesn't sound like you get to do that.
No.
Okay.
No, I don't have the option for that this year. But it's just a ton of meetings. They've got speakers, they do workshops. Every house has like 15 to 20, sometimes 30 people in it. So then like everybody in the house will get together and they'll just have like open shares, or they'll have like a topic, and it's they do a clean, what we call it, a clean time countdown, where they go with like the person who has the most amount of clean time there.
Which is Vito. It's about
62 or 63.
I think I was at 65.
No way.
What?
I'm pretty sure.
No way.
I could be wrong. But he had 50 when I got my first year clean. I've been clean for 14 years. So it's up there. Maybe it's 64 then.
How old is this man?
He's in his 70s.
He's in his 70s.
He got clean originally. He has a crazy story.
What, do you get clean at 12?
He was using when he was 12. and he did AA. And he got clean in his teenage years, but he was on the streets and everything. That's a whole other.
You should have him on the podcast.
I'll send you. I mean, he lives in like Miami, but yeah, he's an older man.
Obviously.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. He was using that one.
We can go to him.
I'll send you, he was one of our big speakers. I'll send you the YouTube of it. It's really good. But yeah, it's a clean time countdown.
Okay.
So then they do that. And it's just a way to really bring everybody together. You know what I mean? And it's kind of cool because we've got well over 400 people in our sponsorship family.
All over the world. There's a guy from Sweden who comes.
Yep. LA, Michigan,
North Carolina, South Carolina,
Chicago.
New York, Buffalo specifically. I know because there's some guys that come down for there.
Yeah, Florida.
Yeah,
obviously.
Florida. Yeah, Georgia.
Yep, Georgia.
Huh.
And it's just being said. I'm just gonna say this. That being said, in terms of like our sponsorship family, we don't turn anyone away. There's a whole bunch of people who are not even associated with our family. Come. And this isn't NA affiliated, I will also say.
Also, yeah.
This is technically not NA affiliated. We're just a bunch.
Anonymous.
Yes, not a Narcotics Anonymous convention. I'll say this for my first time going was I had almost a year, I guess. I probably 8 or 9 months, and this is not at the time. This is not my style going to something like this. And I told my sponsor I would do it, and I did the morning of waking up at 5:30 to get ready to go to his place in Hollywood and then drive to the airport. I was trying to think of ways out of it. I did not want to go. I took the suggestion. I don't know if I'd be talking to you guys without that going there. I've gone to about 10 of these now. It's a game changer for my recovery.
Really?
Game changer.
Why?
You really get to see what it's just recovery thing is about. It's hard to quantify that into words into words. The feeling of it's such a good energy and so much love and the people who are like in the solution. And we just have fun. You know what I mean? There's workshops that are great. Sometimes I don't even go to the workshops, just to be real. I'm just kicking it with my friends at this point. And we're like walking around or we're going to the gym they have there. It's beautiful. It's in Gull Lake in Michigan. It's just a great time, and it showed me like it's not all about. And meetings are great, don't get me wrong, but it's like I'm trying to say it's not just it's.
Well, it's kind of like a vacation in a way.
It is.
It's a time to disconnect.
Yeah,
it's a time to be with your people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a sense of community, the sense of belonging. Yeah, I mean, I get it.
It showed me people like it's something to be said of kind of getting out of your bubble for a minute.
Yeah,
going on with and seeing how other people do recovery. Others people like you hear a lot of stuff in these. It's a powerful experience. There was a gentleman who lost his son like a couple months prior, and he was sharing about it.
Wow.
And he stayed clean throughout it. You know,
wow.
Like. It's only in Narcotics Anonymous, you know?
Yeah.
Or a 12-step fellowship, you know? Yeah. Like, it's the power of it.
Steve, I got a question for you.
What's up?
What are you going to do when you're on this retreat in Michigan about eating?
I got to get with Billy about that. I'm going to... part of me wants to, like, hopefully, like, you know what, bro? You've been doing great. Go eat. You know, go. You know what I mean? Go have fun. But he might not. I'm going to take it. Look, the food's fantastic. The food's really good. And I'm going to they have eggs. Eating not bad is very doable. Obviously it's not, I'm not going back into their kitchen and doing Pam and, doing it myself. So it is however they cook with, how they cook with. So I don't know. It's something I gotta.
So they cook for you and everything while you're here?
Oh yeah, 3 meals a day.
Really?
Fire.
What kind of church? What when you say it's a church?
Well, it's Gull Lake Ministries owns the property. It's about 20. I'm going to say 20. That's just a number. Could be more. Could be a little less. 20 houses. Okay. You rent a house. Between some of the houses have like 30 people in it. Some of them, me and my sponsor, and it's going to be about 4 or 5 of us. Beautiful house. I'm going to be hanging out at your guys' house a whole bunch and going to your guys' meeting Saturday night. Right, Saturday?
Yeah.
I'll be there. Me and Warren are going to crash that party.
With the Cubans.
Yeah, exactly. With the Cubans. Drinking Cuban coffee till 3 in the morning. The loudest house on it. Not to get, I'm just saying. Anyway.
There's no sleep.
There's no sleep.
None.
It's not like a Christian event. They just own the property and they rent it out to groups of people.
Right.
And they've rented it out to us now for over 20 years, I'm thinking. 30 years. It's been going on for a while.
Okay.
And they're great. They're so awesome. They're such awesome hosts. And they have like a great gym too. They have basketball hoops. I'm going to be getting down on that. They got pool tables. It's a lot to do. It's like you could be there a couple weeks and, but we're only there going to be a couple days, but yeah, it's good times.
It's all right. It's fun. Well, the whole point why I wanted to bring that up is that like these are, opportunities that aren't afforded to you if you don't kind of try this stuff.
Yes.
Really. I mean, it's not, the soul sobriety thing isn't just about going into meetings and, doing a 4-step with your sponsor or writing out a 4-step and doing a 5th step and blah, blah, blah. Like that. Yes, that's all part of the process, but we have a lot of fun, build a lot of solid relationships with people and, it's cool. And a lot of times people miss that, or it's not that they miss it. They just don't get to experience it because they have this idea in their head of what a 12-step program is. And it's the furthest thing from the truth. The most important relationships that I have in my life today are a direct result of sobriety. And my sobriety is a direct result of working a 12-step program and surrounding myself with good people, and I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from this is that, first thing you got to do is really want to get sober or not even in, I'm kind of, taking back what I said in the beginning. You don't need just to be open-minded,
yes.
Have the willingness to at least have a conversation with somebody about what this process looks like.
100%.
And just go from there.
When I went into treatment, I'm never using again. I just knew I was utterly exhausted of my lifestyle and was a glimmer of I'm open to something different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Dom, that was it, man.
That was great, Tom.
Pretty painless.
Not bad at all. I'll do it again.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll have you back on.
100%. I could talk for hours, so like 45 minutes is a short story for me.
All right. We'll have you on next time. Steve, any final thoughts?
Just grateful to be here.
Oh,
it's Friday. Grateful
you went back down into your hole. Steve's like, back down.
No, well, I don't know. 45 minutes is about as much as I can. I can't go for hours.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve.
Football this Sunday. Looking forward to it.
Steelers, Browns. Dom,
Browns.
Who do you like?
Go Birds.
Ooh.
Eagles look good yesterday.
All right. Yes, they did.
Really.
Well, I mean,
they won. They pulled out the W.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
The defense looks good.
Thank God.
Here we go, Steelers. Here we go.
I'm sorry, you guys. You won our gentleman's wager last year, but the Browns are way better.
Oh, that's right. We did bet last year, and you had to buy me actually 2 lunches.
I bought you 2 lunches.
Yeah, because it was like $50, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
We eat expensive lunches around here.
yeah. That Lagrange though.
Yeah. All right, that is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk. Thank you for tuning in. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can always reach us, Tom at realrecoverytalk.com and Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. That is it. We will see y'all later.